Joining me now is Center of the American Experiment President, John Hinderaker. John, thanks for joining me. I want to start with the fallout concerning this man, Democrat politician Jay Jones. Jones wants to be Virginia's next Attorney General. However, this week it was revealed back in 2022 he sent disturbing text messages where he mused about saving 2 bullets for the then Republican House Speaker in Virginia. John, is this not just another disturbing example of political violence from the left?
Caroline, it's unbelievable how much violence we have seen coming from the left and how much violent talk we have seen coming from the left. This candidate for Attorney General in Virginia, Jay Jones, he also talked about killing the House Speaker's 2 young children, whom he described as little fascists. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable stuff, and yet we are seeing it over and over again.
I don't know how they get away with that kind of violent talk and yet accusing people on the other side of being literally Nazis and things like that. Let's take a look here at former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, who failed to condemn Jones's comments when speaking on CNN.
They say that on balance, he's the better person to be Attorney General, but that's up to them. But I wish there would be enough fuss of all the times that people have said they were going to put a bullet in my head right in public.
John, how can Pelosi not simply just condemn these remarks?
Well, because the election is next month, and it's too late for the Democrats to substitute another candidate. And so if Jones were to pull out, I think they would basically forfeit the election. They'd probably try to, appoint a substitute, but it's really too late to do that. And so I think the Democratic Party has decided to sink or swim with Joe Jones.
Well, they've certainly lost the moral high ground with that. Let's move now to the White House, where this week the president held a roundtable to denounce Antifa, a group against fascism, or so they claim. This is some of what the president had to say.
It should be clear to all Americans that we have a very serious left-wing terror threat in our country. Radicals associated with the domestic terror group Antifa that you've heard a lot about lately, and I've heard a lot about them for 10 years. And other far-left extremists have been carrying out a campaign of violence against ICE agents and other officials charged with enforcing federal law.
John, what did you make of the roundtable the president held?
Well, it's interesting, because the Democratic Party line is that Antifa doesn't exist. They say Antifa is not an organization, it's just an idea. Well, Antifa has sponsored riots out in front of the ICE facility in Portland, Oregon for 100 nights in a row. They have carried out assaults, arsons, all kinds of violent crimes. And it takes an organization to organize riots 100 days in a row. An idea can't riot. And so what I hope happens, what I hope Trump will do is let's get the Federal Bureau of Investigation and have them start investigating, because we need to find out who is funding Antifa, who is running Antifa, because this is a violent criminal conspiracy and there are criminal charges here that need to be brought.
It could be difficult, though, because it doesn't seem to be necessarily a centralized group. There seems to be a lot of grassroots people involved here. It's not all organized in one central location. Do you think that's going to be a problem for Trump to be able to have the FBI look into them properly?
Well, let's find out what the facts are. It may be that they're decentralized in the sense that there are Antifa chapters or Antifa groups in different cities. I know we have an Antifa group in the city where I live. Our office, my organization's office, was firebombed last year, I think probably by Antifa terrorists. So yeah, they may be decentralized, but that doesn't mean there's no organization. It doesn't mean there aren't crimes being committed, and it doesn't mean that they aren't being funded.
That's horrific about the firebombing. Let's hope they get to the bottom of some of these domestic terrorists. Just on the topic still of political violence, take a look here at Oregon's Democrat Senator Jeff Merkley, who claims the ongoing violence in Portland is fake and is being staged by authorities.
Protesters are peaceful, but they have videographers behind them, and then they start throwing down pepper balls and tear gas to film it, to try to create the impression of chaos where there wasn't chaos. It's Trump creating the chaos because he wants violence and chaos to justify more authoritarian power. This is an incredibly perilous moment for our nation.
I mean, John, this sounds like conspiracy theory here.
I mean, this is so crazy. There's video after video after video of these rioters, these terrorists, rioting, committing crimes. We've all seen it. And these Democrats are so far gone in their hatred of Donald Trump that the only thing they can think of to say is not let's preserve order. It's not let's protect the safety of our citizens. No, it's to say Donald Trump is responsible for the people who are rioting against Donald Trump.
Look, to end on a bit of a lighter note, it's hard to argue President Trump isn't the funniest president we've ever seen. Let's take a look here as he jokes with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney in the Oval Office.
This is, in many respects, the most important.
The merger of Canada and the United States.
That wasn't where I was going.
Look, there's been a lot of argy-bargy between your country and Canada, threats to even make it another US state. But is this a sign that there is actually a strong relationship between the two nations?
Yeah, Carney was really praising Trump there in that meeting. Early on in the second Trump administration, he made a couple of comments, obviously jokes about annexing Canada, and some people took it seriously. And it was like the U.S. Army is going to mass at the North Dakota border and invade Canada. And of course, that's completely idiotic. Nobody has ever contemplated any such thing. And it's good to see that Carney realizes at least that it is a joke.
Yeah, he's known for making plenty of them. Listen, before I let you go, I do want to bring up a great piece you wrote this week about the lies that Kamala Harris keeps spreading about how close last year's election was. Here she is again this week.
It was the tightest, closest presidential election in the 21st century. He does not have a mandate.
Now, John, you quite rightly claim that Harris is doing this to help sell her book. She's on a book tour at the moment. But surely she can come up with something a bit better than this, just completely rewriting the narrative.
Well, something that's not so obviously false. I mean, there have been 7 presidential elections in the 21st century, and this was the third most decisive of those elections. President Trump won, I think it was 312 to 226. I suppose Harris would say that she was talking about the so-called popular vote, which has 0 legal significance, but that isn't true either. In the year 2000, the popular vote margin was only 500,000 votes. In 2024, Trump had 2.3 million more votes than Kamala Harris. So she is just making this up. It is sheer fantasy.
John Heinrich, thank you so much for joining me.